And when it comes to questionable phrases or phrases that could be about anyone, here I just wanted to include a few actual phrases when it comes to describing students. So some of the common expressions that we might come across when we see letters of recommendation are like this. The student ranks in the top half or was above average of their class. So in the case of NYU Abu Dhabi specifically, this might be sort of like a red flag for us when evaluating letters of recommendation, because when it comes to academics, we are a very selective university. So we are really looking for those students who are at the top of their classes. So even if this person is comparing the student to their actual class, they should make sure that the student is not just described as an average student, because it could be, again, anyone in their class. The student rarely missed an assignment, so that qualifies as standard behavior. So that's also something, and I think this is not the only example where we could say that standard behavior shouldn't really make it to the recommendation letter. Like also examples like someone was really nice to their teachers. So that's obviously standard behavior that we would expect anyways, and it goes without saying. So rarely missed as an assignment is not really a good sign. It's actually a red flag for us. So it really translates to missed an assignment at some point or even several. So we would also read within or between the lines where we are seeing or reading these letters of recommendation. Another example is listened, was respectful, paid attention, was on time. Again, it goes back to what I was saying about standard behavior. These are all standard behaviors. Leads by example. So this is maybe an overused generic expression. So we would definitely would like to see something more specific. So this is specifically trying to highlight leadership despite lack of concrete leadership positions. So even if your recommender is saying that about you, we would like to see specific examples of how this has been demonstrated in your academic career or extracurriculars. Accomplishments speak for themselves. Again, this is a very cliche phrase, which doesn't really have any content, so to speak. Had a strong personality. So this is just a very specific example of how a red flag behavior might make it to the letter of recommendation. So this really translates to someone being hard to work with. When they were interested, when they set their minds to it, they were able to do X, Y, and Z. So this is translating into only when the student cared. And grades do not accurately measure ability. So you remember I talked about how teachers could have a role in explaining for certain academic disruptions or the mismatch between the actual abilities of a student and the actual results of the student. But this is something to avoid even when talking about that. So grades do not accurately measure ability. We would again like to see some specific explanation about that. And finally, steady improvement has potential and will become. So talking about potential is not really enough in the letter of recommendation, because again, we would like to see some tangible outcomes and examples of how you were already demonstrating these abilities. So it's not just a promise that they can imagine about you, but it also the actual realization of those qualities already in your high school career.